Yo, yo, yo. What's good? What's good? It's Stormy B-Man, and I am live and on the move. Shout out to my brother, Junior the Truth. Yes, sir. Yes. I'm not able to do my regular Sunday morning call-in show because I gotta work. Stormy B-Man is on the grind. I got bills to pay, you guys, so y'all don't be sending them super chats and donations and buying my merchandise and everything. So I still gotta get out here and take it to the max. You know what I'm saying? So I'm out here, huh? But I need a little help. I need a little love in the pockets. So I'm going to do what I don't like to do, huh? And that's to work over, huh? Yeah, but I'm out here. Listen, this is a quick live. Good morning, everybody. Grand risings to you all. Those who will be catching me on the replay, those who will be coming in as we get this together. Listen, I wanted to talk about the Fabio Wardley Joseph Parker fight from yesterday, how the fight concluded, and how I'm hearing all of these sentiments, man. People are upset. People don't like it. People feel the fight was stopped too soon. People think the fix was in, and all of that peanut butter and jelly, huh? Yeah. But I'm here to tell you, where's all that when there are real consequences from abrupt endings, unfair scorings, and all of that? You see? Because I'm very consistent. It appears to me when a guy that is the favorite, the consensus to be determined as successful, when that person does not come out on top, there seems to be an alignment of reasons as to why it didn't happen outside of what really went down. That's the thing that I don't like. Because if you're going to be consistent about everything. Be consistent about these corrupt judges. Be consistent about these poor referees and officials. Be consistent about the poor corner work that don't tell their men the proper things to get them through and have them prepared properly for the matches, and don't know when to stop their fighter in the corner when they can't take anymore. Be consistent overall for everything. See, we got in the building, people coming in. We got Hen Dog. What's going on? Joe Gagliari, what's going on? Salute to you all. Adrian Vitt. We got Convos with Cam. Grand rising to you all. Thank you for stopping in and listening to Stormy B-Man as we are live and on the move this morning. Listen, man. I have seen and heard enough over the past, what has it been, 12, 14 hours maybe? That makes me just laugh because people really thought Joseph Parker was gonna beat the crap out of Fabio Wardley and go on and challenge Alexander Usyk for the undisputed titles. People were even believing the hype that Parker was deserving of a shot against Usyk. And I'm like, wow, there's a gentleman out there by the name of Ajit Kabiel who's been knocking off people left and right, and nobody speaks his name at all. Nobody. Huh? So here we have little old Fabio. And maybe it's his name. I don't know. That first name, Fabio, that there was a model out there, I guess. His name was Fabio. The dude with the long hair looked like Thor, but, Thor who is kind of like of that persuasion. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But anyway, maybe it's his name. Maybe it's his truck head, you know. He got a truck head, y'all. One of them heads that look like you can hitch something up to and drive on down through the construction zone and everything. And maybe that's why he's hard to knock out too. So stop trying to hit him in his truck head and hit him in the body. Huh? How about that? But anyway, I digress. Lots of folk, they're saying, oh, you know, Fabio good win or whatever. But, you know, they're talking about the fact that that referee stepped in, stopped the fight. But how about, let's talk about Joseph Parker didn't know what to do when he got rattled, shook, damn near KTFO. Huh? Because if my memory serves correct, what was that, the second, third round? When Fabio lit him up like a Christmas tree early, and he was going in. And you could go back and watch this. Joe spit his mouthpiece out. He didn't look to clinch. He didn't look to hold. He spit his mouthpiece out. And Andy Lee, oh, the famed Andy Lee, the awesome trainer from the Kronk and everything, former world title holder, Andy was standing right there and got up on the ring apron when Joe spit his mouthpiece out. The referee called the time in the action when Fabio was going upside his head, which is why he called a timeout in the action for Joe spitting out his mouthpiece during the exchanges. There was something awfully strange about that, but see, ain't nobody talking about that but STORMYBMAN, huh? And Andy on the ring apron should have been DQ'd. He was up there before the referee reached over to grab the mouthpiece, and what in the Tank Davis is going on here, you people? Seriously, what's really going on? So I noticed this, right? I'm checking it out. I'm like, you know what? Things are really creepy out here. But people are mad because Joe didn't win. I was telling people last week Joe was going to get beat up. His little run that they keep talking about that he was on of wins strung together against a mishmash of guys who were not necessarily at their best when facing him. He was given a gift decision over Zhili Zhang, who had him down twice. But you know, we know that Zhang is good for 4 rounds. And that's about it. Shout out to Joe Joyce, who should have recognized that, and his people. But they went in there and tried to get in exchanges with the guy, refused to move their head off of center line, got a swollen eye, got KTFO, in 2 fights. TKO and KTFO, Yeah. What's really going on? You see, because they were talking about Parker's experience, He's so much more experienced. I gotta go with the experienced guy. I gotta go with the guy who's the former world title holder, I'll call him, because he was no champion. If he was a real champion, he would have got in there against Deontay Wilder when he was supposed to. Not after Deontay had went on this crusade of, you know, becoming a more, you know, what we're gonna call it, even-keeled guy that didn't have that aggression in him anymore and all of that stuff, And with Malik Scott tainting his fighting style and really had him ill prepared. You know, I'm unforgiving for Malik Scott for that foolishness, man. Really. Deontay could have done without that. My support will always be for Deontay, and I'm going to say what needs to be said about supporting my brother, the Bronze Bomber, because he needed somebody that was going to help him stay on track of being aggressive, knocking people's heads off, taking no prisoners, putting his Timbs deep in their behinds. But Malik tried to turn our brother into a ballerina, man. You know? Never is that his style. Never. Anyway, I digress once again. Parker has enjoyed advantages. Sean King, whatever that dude's name, the European dude, who was that? That wasn't some monumental win and victory. Martin Bacoli, who was asked to come out of the TV room, of his home, to put that bottle of Beck's beer down and get on a plane to go to see a Riyadh season, Saudi, and face Joe Parker in 10 hours. The man hadn't touched a pair of gloves since he took his gloves off against Jared Anderson over a year before. So here we have a guy who's been put out there, propped up against fights and fighters that he should defeat. Deontay had a long layoff. Bacoli wasn't ready. Had no training camp whatsoever. At least could we have had a Bacoli who had 8 weeks to prepare? Such foolishness. But the writing should have been on the wall coming into this fight for some of the novice supporters of the sport. When you saw that Parker came in at 262 pounds. Now that's a weight he should be weighing when he's not fighting. Huh? How about that, you guys? How about that? 262 pounds to our brother, Truck, as a nickname, Truck Wardley, came in at 241, which he is basically, coming in around that weight every fight, 241, 243. He right there, 240-pound fighter. Athletic, no dad bod, just a regular athletic bod. He don't have all the muscles or anything. But boy, do he got fight in him. And that's what I recognize. That's what I was sold on, because in this space of boxing, we're seeing a lot of pretenders out here, and you've been hearing Stormy B Man talk about that. Pretenders, not contenders, Guys who are pretending that they got something. Some of them have a little bit of novelty. They might even have a little bit of charisma, but they don't have the fighter instinct. They don't have the technical proficiency. They do not have the experience of how to conduct themselves in the ring. We got guys taking knees and not being accredited for it and disqualified, and guys who are missing weight. We got guys who refuse to face their colleagues in stiff competition matchups. There's so much wrong. And you all are clinging to these dudes. What is that all about? Hugging on mackerels, smelling all fishy. Yeah. But these fighters When a real one come along and go up against one that you've been supporting who ain't real, the excuses come. Those judges. That referee, I knew when they assigned him to the fight. Yeah. But never looked at the guy like, man, this guy's dangerous. This guy, he might not have an amateur pedigree. He might not even be the most skillful, but he's awkward. And damn, he likes to mix it up. And he win. Yeah, that's what you're looking at. You see, in that late round, I don't know if it was the 10th round, the 9th round, when Fabio got rocked by Joseph Parker, and many people were thinking like Truck was hurt. Man, he stood around in that center of the ring and he looked at him and dropped his hands and told him, come on, let's go. Let's get down right now. And Joe just looked at him. That's too much power for any one man to have. Like that guy said in the movie Malcolm X, when Malcolm had directed the FOI out there outside that police station. That one policeman was like, that's too much power for one man to have. Yeah. So aside from Joe spitting out mouthpieces, not getting DQ'd for his trainer being up on the ring apron, and nobody said nothing about that referee stopping the action where Fabio was about to commit a 187, and he spit the mouthpiece out. The ref was supposed to pick the mouthpiece up and let him continue, and then when there was a break in the action, like Joe going down for the count, then maybe put the mouthpiece in. Nobody's saying nothing about that though, Why not? Is it because you wanted Parker to win? Yeah. As long as we have these fighters matching up. And I saw that point in between the fights where the co-main was about to start, but they brought all those heavyweights out that Frank Warren has in his stable. He got so many heavyweights in his stable, it's looking like Don King circa 1982, Yeah. But some of those guys are pretenders too. You might have one or two that's a real one in there. And being a real one, you can still have losses on your record. That doesn't, just because you're undefeated, that doesn't make you a real one, In fact, we're not going to call you a real one just because you're undefeated unless you've been put through certain trial. Fabio's been through trial. Fabio been in fights, man. You see that cut on his nose that won't never heal? That cut will never heal. Whatever he got in that first fight with Big Fraze, where that cut was opened up on the bridge of his nose, that was damage. That's permanent damage. It'll have a scab. It'll have the scab will fall off, and it'll always be discolored or whatever, unless he decides to have plastic surgery or something, and that shouldn't be a consideration as long as he's continuing his boxing career. But he's taken shots, he's been hit, he's been beat up, he's been outboxed, he's never been knocked off his feet, but he finds a way to win. Just win, baby, just win. And that's what he does. An admirable quality for a man who boxing ain't even his number one sport. That man is a footballer, meaning soccer player. Sometimes when you have fighters, they can have certain gifts: hand speed, footwork, punching power, the mastery of ring generalship. But they can have all of those kind of traits and qualities, characteristics that can put them on path toward many victories. But it's very hard to find a guy who can fight. All things aside, the guy can fight. And that's what you have in Wardley. And he does not have quit in him. He's a man who will fight until the end. When that fight was stopped, he was on Parker like a bad suit. And though all of the shots were not landing clearly, he was throwing them. And Parker could not stop it. He could not clinch. He could not tie him up. He forgot to spit the mouthpiece out this time. And when the referee jumped in and waved it off, Fabio immediately fell to the floor. Tired, expended, spent. But had that round resumed, he would have kept throwing those punches. That's the kind of fighter he is. And people don't like it. People don't like it, man. It's like the guy that you might not even like Joseph Parker, but you just thought that Parker would win because you're more familiar with him than you are with Fabio. But how often has Stormy B-Man told you to watch boxing? Watch it so that you can fortify yourself on what is happening in the sport, who you're seeing do what they do. How can these fighters come up and pull off certain efforts that you hadn't anticipated? I talk about this, but you don't listen to me. I make suggestions. I tell you that fights you should go look at. Nobody comes back and say, hey, Stormy B-Man, thank you for putting me up on this and that, because I had a chance to look it over for myself and I see what you're talking about. I'm learning something here. I had somebody come into my post-fight live yesterday and he says, I come here to learn from you, brother. But everything he's saying to me in the chat is saying otherwise. You ain't learning a damn thing from me. And that's funny because I've talked about this before. When you go to college and there are seminars where a professor is speaking or whatever, lecturing or whatever, you pay your money for that. And you go there and you're supposed to sit there and listen and take in whatever the curriculum happens to be. You don't sit there and try to challenge the professor, and you don't sit there and try to make a point of, I think I can trip him up, I can make him look bad or whatever. See, because once you have a mindset like that, then you've already failed, huh? How is that so, Stormy B-Man? I'm going to show you how that's so. Salute to the brother Freedom's March in the building. Yo, to you, Grand Rising. There's a parable, Chinese parable, of a learned man, a scholar who sought knowledge. And so in his endeavors, he would travel the provinces to learn the culture of areas that he were not familiar with. And he happened upon a temple where there was a monk who invited him in. He told him why he was visiting, and the monk decided to sit, have tea, and explain to this scholar that the ways of the culture in their temple are conducted. And he began to offer tea to the scholar. And they sat, and as he poured tea for the scholar, he was explaining, within our monastery here, this is what we do, how we pray, this is what we fast upon. And he gave him various subjects, and the scholar's like, oh yeah, I'm familiar with that. Yeah, I know what that is. Yeah, we do that too in our culture, and this and that. And so as the monk was pouring the tea and the scholar kept talking, the teacup began to fill up. And so as the monk was pouring, the scholar talked and talked and talked. So the monk kept pouring, so much that the cup began to overflow. Now the scholar kept talking, but he's noticing that the cup is running over, right? And so he continues to talk, and then the monk continues to pour the tea until the contents were not only overflowing onto the table, but are now over the table to the floor. And so finally the scholar says, please stop. My cup runneth over, man. And the monk said, exactly. How can you taste my tea if you do not empty your cup? In other words, the lesson is, you come here to learn from us, zip your mouth, open your ears and your mind, and allow the growth and learning process to take place. You see, it's a simple thing. But I talked about people coming into the chat saying certain things. And then the fact that I'm giving information out, but you're not ready to receive it, and you close your mind to it. So it's bouncing off of empty ears, souls, minds, and there's no learning process taking place. So that self-absorption that you have, where you're trying to trip me up, trying to tell me, trying to disprove me, you're holding up a mirror. It's reflective of yourself. I talked about this fight for a week. The consensus happens to be the one that you're familiar with. That's who you're going to go with. But why not get familiar with all parties involved so that you can make even a more clear decision on what you're looking at? Oh yeah. There are people who don't do that. The sexperts who are out here stroking guys off and telling you their thoughts about how great they are and everything are wrong almost every single turn. I wonder why that is, but you still listen to them. Ego stroking is not what I do. It's not what I do. One of the things that I do is I try to get you to open up your mind to appeal to a greater sense of understanding. Okay, we got $1 trillion dreams in the chat. This is the gentleman that I was talking about, and he's in here. So again, peeping through the blinds and the bushes. This is what I talk about. Now, I didn't speak on you because I'm trying to condemn you. I made a point. And my point is, once again, if I am conveying information to people, even if it's something that you're familiar with already, it's not accredited unless you're trying to weaponize it to put yourself in a position to be right or wrong. I don't do what I do to be right or wrong. I've always spoken about being a platform of making the most quality of content that I can do. Being wrong is a part of the yang in life, yin and yang. You can be correct, you can be corrected. But most people exist off of the understanding of being correct, which is a single-minded situation. But when you decide to take it upon yourself to be more exploring, what happens is other areas, positions, perspectives get an opportunity to come into play. Yeah, that's what that is. It's just like when I speak on who's out there. There's tons of people watching me all the time. My channel has over 2 million views. Only 6,000 subs, which means that YouTube has finagled my numbers. There is no way that my channel would have over 2 million views and people not gain anything from what I'm doing. If I weren't prosperous, I wouldn't have 2 million views. The views would probably be, for the time that I've been producing content, in the thousands. So you see, there is a suppression of information out here, but that's okay. If I'm going back and forth and I'm dropping N-word bombs and talking about other people and all of that kind of stuff, oh yeah, that's kinetic. That's an energy that they like to promote. I don't do that. I'm always talking about elevating, raising your consciousness. Something that they don't want you to hear, that they don't want to get out there, that's being suppressed. Because why? They want you dumb. They want you dumbed down. They want you as sheeple. Yeah. But it's okay, because like I've said often and will continue, everybody ain't gonna make it. No. The broad road may be for the undisciplined. The narrow road may be for those who are disciplined and can hold themselves in check. When I do what I do, there are people out here listening, being on there, even more so than my supporters and those who have subscribed to the channel. Yeah, Going into this fight week, I prepared everything for what people should look at. Just as I did when it was fight week for the big fight, Canelo versus Crawford. We had a host of people out there with Canelo versus Crawford who felt like Canelo was going to win hands down and Crawford didn't stand a chance. And you question, why would Crawford not stand a chance? Oh, because there are weight classes for a reason. How many of you have seen in real life a conflict situation out in the streets? You could be out in a public space or whatever, and two men get to fighting, and one guy's big and the other guy's little, and you see that little guy whoop that big guy's behind. And you'd be like, man, he knocked him on his butt. He took care of him. He did this, he did that. You know why that is? It's because the misconception is that the little guy should be overwhelmed by the bigger guy. When Bruce Lee was shooting his fight scenes for his last unfinished film, Game of Death, the character that he played in the film was supposed to venture up a tower, a pagoda, where on each level, a 5-story pagoda, where each level had a different master of fighting, different styles. And the idea was for him to find a way to defeat each style as he went up. Life is that way. Life prepares us to deal with things differently. Sometimes we'll be able to prevail. Sometimes we'll be held up and need to stop. And that's to take the lesson in. Okay, we got $1 Trillion Dreams. He's asking, he's like, you got a question? Okay, what's your question, Trillion Dreams? What's up? I'm gonna have to get off of here in a minute because I'm arriving to my destination shortly. Jonathan Simon, salute to you, brother. I see you out there. Blessings to you as well. Man, it is so interesting to see who's out in the wee hours of the morning. Some people, unfortunately, have no choice but to be out. And then others, you just kind of question, like, what's really going on, man? What's really going on? Okay, $1 Trillion says, no question, I was saying I saw a small man beat a little man in real life before. I'm just listening. Oh, okay, yeah. It happens, right? So why can't it happen in boxing? That's just like Michael Jai White talking about, because he's 6'2" and 200 plus pounds, that he could beat Bruce Lee. But everybody that came along with Bruce Lee in that era back there in the 60s, I ain't talking about Bruce Lee, the movie star, in the 70s, in the 60s, when he was working out with all those guys, Mike Stone, Chuck Norris, Joe Louis, Tankston. Bruce had a reputation. Ron Van Cleef. He had a reputation. June Ray. And his reputation was he was a fighter, a street fighter at best. And he could do some things that many people didn't really believe he could do. For such a man of slight, 5'7.5", 140 pounds. What's that, a super lightweight? Yeah. Bruce was that guy. Sure was. But see, Michael Jai White, who is a bad man, by the way. I would never say he isn't. He's a bad dude. But I do believe he has given too much to himself, that he has taken that position that, like, you can't even let somebody else who came before you shine, you know? You have to be able to give unto others what they've accrued. You know, it's like there's space for everybody to eat, man. Michael Jai White might be able to be in movies and stuff today because of the men who blazed the trail before him. Jim Kelly, Ron Van Cleef, Ty Mack, guys like that. You know? $1 Trillion Dreams, to that notion of what you just said, there was a time at Golden Harvest Studios where Sammo Hung, who was a actor, choreographer, and stuntman for Golden Harvest Studios early on. He eventually became a director for them as well. But when Bruce Lee was in the studio and they had a chance to meet, he had a conversation with Bruce, and they were talking about how fast Bruce was rumored to be. And they had a challenge between them. Now, Sammo is the guy that played the fat monk that Bruce Lee fought at the beginning of Enter the Dragon. So they had met in a corridor in the studio, on the studio lot. And, you know, because Sammo was reputed a pretty good martial artist himself. And as a fight choreographer for the films, he would go and literally learn styles to come back to teach the actors and actresses on the set or whatever. So he had a reputation. Plus he came up in the same opera school that Jackie Chan and Yuen Biao and so many of the others that you would see in the early 70s in the films do their magic. But he and Bruce had a challenge match. And so they looked at each other, and Bruce said, "You ready?" And Sammo said, "Yeah, you ready?" And Sammo got ready to make a move, and Bruce Lee's foot was right at his face. And he said, "Damn." Before I could think, he's like, he almost knew what I was thinking before I did my action, and he had already put his, you know, self in motion to defend or whatever. He said, "I've never seen anybody with that type of speed." So yeah, But I should talk about more stuff like that on my Kung Fu channel. But listen, guys, I appreciate everybody that came out to listen to what I had to say this morning. Fabio Worley defeats Joseph Parker, 11th round TKO stoppage. I had said that Joseph was not going to win this fight, and turned out that Fabio really gave himself an opportunity for a brighter future, possibly against Alexander Usyk next year. We'll have to see. But I appreciate it. Everybody that came out here, please hit the like button on the way out if you didn't on the way in, as we get ready to start this work day. I gotta get going. I would have loved to be at home today to do the answering the bell show, but I think my brother Junior Truth is gonna go live. I told him, so he's probably gonna do a live stream. So be looking out for Junior the Truth this morning. I want to say shout out to the mighty LDBC, and we'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace to everyone. Thank you for tuning in.